The Nintendo Switch 2 details were announced and people are livid, but not because of the incredible games that were announced for it or its surprising hardware capabilities, but it's a problem that you and I won't have to worry about anytime soon, for better or worse. It's worse. And Square Enix has plans for NieR and Final Fantasy IX's anniversaries, giving us even more reasons to hype responsibly. Good morning to you, and welcome back to today's JRPG Weekly Update, your source for thoughtful and thought-provoking RPG news and discussion. And the biggest thing I've got to talk about today has to be the Nintendo Switch 2 April 2 Direct, revealing the Nintendo Switch 2 details. The new hardware has been confirmed to be mostly backwards compatible with the Nintendo Switch library, and some of the existing games will even benefit from shorter load times and steadier performance on the upgraded systems. However, some games will have the upgrade packages available for sale that will even further leverage the new hardware capabilities. Nintendo has announced that the Nintendo GameCube titles are coming to the Nintendo Switch Online expansion pack exclusively on the Nintendo Switch 2 at launch. The first wave will include RPG classics and RPG adjacent classics like The Legend of Zelda: The Wind Waker, Fire Emblem: Path of Radiance, Pokemon Colosseum and XD, plus other GameCube favorites such as Soul Calibur 2, F-Zero GX, etc. A wireless GameCube controller is also being offered as a pre-order bonus for the new consoles, and you know that the Smash community is going to eat that up. But in addition to being able to play the old stuff well, Nintendo is really beginning to step into this decade, sporting 4K resolutions when docked, 1080p in handheld mode, and up to 100 frames per second in supported games. The dock also features active cooling, which leads me to think that the dock might be actually doing some heavy lifting of its own, perhaps some sort of 4K upscaling for the Nintendo Switch 2's 1080p content. The AI chips rumored to be in the games console hasn't really been shown off too much in depth, but I wouldn't be surprised if some equivalent of Nvidia's DLSS or frame generation were involved in hitting some of those peak numbers, besides just simple camera background removals and AI noise reduction that were shown off in Nintendo's worst gimmick since the Nintendo DS microphone. Speaking of that camera and microphone, Nintendo has also revealed what the C button does, and it's not as cool as any of us had really hoped for, but it's one that we all should have guessed, because traditionally the C button on Nintendo consoles, or C buttons or stick, stood for camera controls, and in a way that kind of continues as it stands for camera chat, or just chat if you don't have the camera. But a year after launch, it will stand for care to purchase a Nintendo Online service? And I swear to God, I will personally desolder the contacts on that button if it interrupts my gameplay with a credit card prompt every time I accidentally press that button, otherwise known as the only time I will ever press that button. Nintendo also delivered some shockwaves with its game reveals. Elden Ring is officially coming to the Nintendo Switch 2, and that would have been enough. But in a jaw-dropping move, FromSoftware announced a Switch 2 exclusive title, The Duskbloods, an apparent successor to Bloodborne, which Sony has been sitting on since forever now. You snooze, you lose, Sony. They described Duskbloods as a PvPvE multiplayer-focused action RPG. The Duskbloods marks a unique partnership with Nintendo. Director Hidetaka Miyazaki reassured fans, though, that despite the online-centric project, FromSoftware isn't abandoning its single-player roots, pointing out that they also announced a Switch 2 version of Elden Ring and will continue to develop traditional solo experiences alongside new ventures. The fact that a Souls-style title and Elden Ring are on the Nintendo platform has JRPG circles buzzing already. Beyond FromSoft, other RPG franchises are already lining up for the Nintendo Switch 2. Nihon Falcom isn't sitting out this hardware cycle either, as the developer have announced that the East 10 Proud Nordics, an enhanced version of last year's East 10 Nordics, will also launch in summer of 2025, and notably it will support Nintendo Switch 2 from day one. Proud Nordics is said to feature significant improvements to the content over the base game. This news came alongside the Switch 2 Direct, underlining that smaller Japanese developers like Falcom are on board with the platform early. Western release plans for East 10 Nordics are still unannounced, but fans are already counting down the days to play Proud Nordics on a shiny new Switch 2. All told, the Switch 2 reveal has injected a lot of hype and debate into the community, and it's arguably the biggest JRPG adjacent headline of this entire year so far. In fact, here is a quick breakdown of most of the confirmed JRPGs and JRPG adjacent games for the Nintendo Switch 2 so far, including Bravely Default, Flying Fairy HD Remaster, Cyberpunk 2077 Ultimate Edition, Deltarune 1 through 4, which is pretty awesome because that's 2 whole new chapters, Elden Ring Tarnished Edition, Final Fantasy VII Remake Intergrade, Hyrule Warriors Age of Imprisonment, a whole new, Hyrule Warriors game, Hogwarts Legacy. The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom will have enhanced versions. No Sleep for Kaname Date from AI Somnium Files, Pokemon Legends ZA, Raido Remaster, The Mystery of the Soulless Army, Rune Factory Gardens of Azuma, Story of Seasons Grand Bazaar, Wild Hearts 5, Yakuza 0 Director's Cut, East 10 Proud Nordics, and some GameCube games on the Nintendo Switch, including Fire Emblem Path of Radiance, The Legend of Zelda The Wind Waker, Pokemon Colosseum, and Pokemon XD Gale of Darkness. Now, with this event finally over, Nintendo did confirm a $450 price tag and a worldwide launch on June 5th. The community reaction has been mixed. Many fans are excited to play the GameCube-era games, and the announced lineup of games is absolutely staggering, and being able to play current Switch RPGs with better performance is, of course, enticing. However, many fans balk at the higher price and limited pre-order window, which has suddenly become a little more limited. Personally, I was kind of expecting closer to maybe $400 or so, including compensating for the imposing tariffs. It's a larger system than the Nintendo Switch and has several more features, and the dock appears to have some active components requiring active cooling. So probably for that real-time upscaling to 4K, and if that's the case, then I can kinda see why the price is this high, but others continue to be miffed that everything has cost more. The games are more expensive, the pack and demo game won't be packed in, and the dedicated C button will stop working if you don't pay up. It just feels like we're getting nickeled and dimed every step of the way after the initial purchase, and that feels bad, especially because a lot of folks, myself included, are feeling the squeeze right now, and if the markets are any indication, things are going to get a lot worse before they start to get better. And speaking of getting worse, right before recording today's show, Lazus in the Discord has let me know that Nintendo actually pulled their plans to start their pre-orders on April 9, delaying orders indefinitely. Pre-orders for Nintendo Switch in the US will not start on April 9 in order to assess the potential impact of tariffs and evolving market conditions, said Nintendo. Potential impact of a 24% tariff sounds like one hell of an understatement. It's good stuff. It ain't keto. For those of you who are unaware, tariffs are taxes that the government collects from foreign businesses like Nintendo in order to force them to raise their prices. Tariffs like these are why computers and consoles are so prohibitively expensive in places like Brazil and now the United States. Now, in theory, this is Uncle Sam putting his thumb on the scales of free market capitalism in order to urge consumers to buy American-made alternatives. So hopefully some of us can find some of those mythical Nintendo consoles made with American chips, or we might end up really screwed. Another mini controversy stems from the game cards that will intentionally not have the games actually on them, and this could actually be a big step in the right direction from my perspective, as this will possibly replace the game code in a box thing that we've been seeing in the past few years, because this should at least allow people to continue buying and selling and trading their used games. And in live service games and MMOs, such as those that receive and require constant update patches and everything, it's a cost-cutting measure that actually makes a lot of sense. You should only need a physical copy of the game if it can feasibly be played offline. And of course, from a game preservation perspective, this is awful still because once the servers go away, well, so does the game. But for online-only games anyway, this isn't really any sort of game changer. The only potential drawback that I see is that it could be hard to tell which games actually are on the card versus a download voucher unless it's clearly marked on the packaging. And speaking of that packaging, nothing tells me that Nintendo wants us to stop buying physical games like the new game boxes, which look absolutely awful and I hate them. What were they thinking? My Switch collection was looking almost too subtly boring and red and drab before, but now I get to look forward to an eye-watering, fully saturated red glow in my background for the rest of forever. Honestly, nothing so far until now has had me consider whether or not digital only should be in my future. The answer is obviously no, but still, yuck.
You're tacky and I hate you.
Okay, you see me after class.
But let's bring it all back down home to you and me. Are you getting a Switch 2? And what do you think of the Switch 2 reveal? What feature or announcement got the most excited or concern from you? Are you planning to upgrade for those enhanced RPG experiences, or are you holding off for now? Personally, I think I'm gonna have to get one if I'm going to be able to review Switch 2 games, so the calculus behind my decision is a little simpler because it's a system that might hopefully pay for itself eventually. I think I said that about the PlayStation 5 though. But if that weren't the case, would I still spend $500 to play last-gen games but better? Well, considering that I own a PlayStation 5, moving along, Square Enix has launched an official Final Fantasy IX 25th anniversary website this week, making us all absolutely old as dirt. The Japanese site teases various projects in the works for the anniversary, mostly merch and collaborations so far, but it has fans fervently speculating that the long-rumored Final Fantasy IX remake might actually be one of those projects. Such a remake was included in the years-old NVIDIA leak that so far has proven to be extremely accurate. Nothing official on the remake yet, but the community's buzz is real. Square Enix has also scheduled a special live stream to celebrate the 15 years anniversary of NieR on April 19th. The release of NieR was closer to the release of Final Fantasy IX than we are to the release of NieR. Wow. The broadcast will feature series producer Yosuke Saito, director Yoko Taro, composer Keiichi Okabe, and others, plus a mini concert and developer discussion. No new game announcements have been confirmed, but Saito has hinted that 2025, the anniversary year, might bring news of the next NieR title. Given that NieR's 10th anniversary event revealed the Replicant version 1.22, fans will be tuning in with some pretty high expectations. And this one was actually submitted by ATM in the Discord server. JagX, it's a name I haven't heard in a long while, revealed RuneScape Dragon Wilds, a new spin-off that brings the RuneScape universe into an open-world survival RPG. Set in the new region of Gielinor, called Oceanhorn. It supports 1 to 4 player co-op as you gather resources, build camps, and fight magically mutated creatures. Yes, there's still dragons aplenty. Dragon Wilds enters early access on PC this spring with hopes for a broader console release in 2026. Longtime RuneScape fans seem to be intrigued by this fresh take. It's RuneScape meets survival crafting, while some are cautiously optimistic about JagX's track record. If any of you need your armor trimmed, well, just let me know. I'll give you the hookup. And moving along, indie developer Cornfox and Bros is returning to the Oceanhorn universe with Oceanhorn Chronos Dungeon, a new pixel art dungeon crawler. Announced on April 4, it's set 200 years after Oceanhorn 2 and features retro-style 16-bit visuals and 4-player couch co-op gameplay. The game will launch on PC via Steam and iOS and Android on Q2 of 2025. Chronos Dungeon was previously mostly on Apple Arcade exclusives, so the multi-platform release has Oceanhorn fans excited to finally dive into its Zelda-like dungeon together. If you're into old-school gauntlet-style action RPGs with modern touches, keep an eye out on this one. And then NIS America has confirmed that Phantom Brave: The Lost Hero will hit Steam on April 24. This is the latest entry in the classic strategy RPG series, with launched on consoles this January. The Lost Hero continues the off-grid summon-centric tactical gameplay in Phantom Brave that it is known for, and the PC version comes with all the content and updates from the console release. It's a welcome addition for strategy RPG fans who prefer playing on PC, and it marks the series' PC debut after a long history of console exclusivity. Console players, meanwhile, get their Lost Hero fix earlier this year. And then moving on to some SuperDerek news. With Turbo's recovery steadily progressing along, it's starting to look like I might be able to return to resuming my normal production schedule of actual other video content besides the JRPG Weekly update. Thank you so much for watching, by the way, this entire time. I really appreciate it. Not only that, but maybe I can start doing some more regular Twitch streams again. Soon, I hope to return to the world of Zemuria and continue my playthrough of Trails into Reverie. So head on over to Twitch and get followed there so you'll see when I go live. A link will be in the video description as well. And now it's time for your JRPG Weekly forecast, starting with, honestly, April 10 is the only day on this list, but we have two games. The first is Progress Orders. This is a Fantasy Guild management RPG from the Story of Seasons and Rune Factory alum Yoshifumi Hashimoto. You play as an assistant guildmaster, training adventurers, and using a clairvoyance ability to guide your parties through turn-based dungeon quests. Think Rune Factory meets like a guild sim. Manage your guild day to day, conquer the dungeon by night. This one looks perfect for fans of sim life RPGs with a twist of strategy. And then Promise Mascot Agency is coming out also on April 10th for PC, PS4, PS5, Switch, Xbox One, and Switch. It is an open-world mascot management adventure RPG by creator Paradise Killer, set in Japan's Showa era. In this game, you are a former Yakuza tasked with running a rundown mascot agency to lift a curse on a town by recruiting quirky local mascots. It's a blend of laid-back business sim and crime drama wrapped in a stylish offbeat world. I don't really understand it. Paradise Killer earned a cult following with its narrative style, and Promise Mascot Agency carries that same sort of delightful, bizarre vibe. A demo during the Steam Next Fest garnered positive reactions for its humor and unique premise, so keep an eye out for this one if you enjoy something truly different or are looking for a good palate cleanser. Otherwise, there's not really any huge AAA RPGs coming out in this window, but fear not, because later in April, we'll bring some heavy hitters, including Claire Obscure, Expedition 33, and the 100-line Last Defense Agency. So now let's go ahead and wrap things up with comments from last week, starting with Berserk for Souls, who says, "I'm speechless over them dropping Saga 2 out of nowhere. Been waiting years for this. 2 might be my favorite Saga game and the most underrated Squaresoft classic." And that's a sentiment that I actually saw repeated over and over in the comments section. I've yet to actually had a chance to play this. I got this thing where I can't get into games if I'm emulating it, so I don't know why that is, by the way. It's a weird me thing, but that's really cool. And I hope that I get a chance to actually play this myself as well. And then Kuruma251 says, Devil Summoner straight up. I'm so happy we can have another chance to afford a copy, LOL. And that's another one that I saw a lot of last week. I'm just so glad that it's also coming to Switch too. I am also hoping to hear that Metaphor Refantasio and maybe Persona 3 Reload will show up there, but so far I haven't heard any indication from Atlas, but at least we know that Raito won't be left behind on the old systems. So that's it for today. You know, I appreciate you guys sticking around if you stuck around, and I know that a lot of y'all don't like to talk about politics or hear about politics, and I don't like to talk about politics to you, hence the little bit of something to help me get through it all. Not that you should compensate with this, but it does ease the tongue a little bit. So it helps me say the things that I need to say today. And those things are probably going to get me some angry comments down below. Hopefully not too many though, because I'm just trying to talk facts here without making any real judgments, but you can make your own. Thank you all for joining me, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Have a great week, everybody.